You like that? You like that?
Took care of that thing for you. Took care of that thing for you.
We're gonna buy the kneecap. We're gonna buy the kneecap. We're gonna buy the kneecap off.
It's my quarterback.
Yes, yes, yes. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Main Event Football Show. It's Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm your host, Main Event Mike, here with you for the next hour to talk about NFL football, specifically Detroit Lions football. Before we do that, I'd like to remind everyone, whatever platform you're watching on, if you like football content and you'd like to continue to see us put out football content, please follow our page on Facebook. It's Lions Villain Squad. On YouTube, it's simply at Villain Squad. And we are broadcasting live into both of those platforms today, as well as the Detroit Lions News Podcast. Big thanks to Joe Chapp and the boys for the Detroit Lions News Podcast, letting us broadcast there. Also broadcasting live into Roku TV, the Huddle Sports Network. We are broadcasting live there as well. Welcome, everyone. Be sure to put it in the comments to say hello to us, if you would, please, because we love having all of you here, of course. And I'm joined, as always, by my compadre, our producer, Mr. Russell Wayne.
Yeah. What's going on, Mike? Feeling good Monday.
Well, I'll tell you what's going on, Russ. Today, folks, we continue our countdown, our ranking of the positions in the NFC. These are our special position rankings that go to 11. It's just a top 10 list, but ours go to 11. So we've done all of the skill positions on the offensive side of the ball: wide receiver, quarterback, running back, tight end. Now we're moving over to the other side of the ball. Going to do our first position rankings on defense. And this week, we're going to kick it off with linebackers, which turned out to be really, really harder than I thought it was going to be. Hopefully, all of you did your homework out there, and you're going to put it in the comments for us, your top 11 linebackers in the NFC. Russ, this was hard, right? Coming up with 11.
It was, but I think we're going to have some fun today. We're going to have some fun today. This is going to be a cool expedition. And I hope that you are all going to go on it with us.
Mm-hmm. And why does our list go at 11? Because as Davey says here in the comments, it takes more.
That's right.
We're going to recap.
There it is. I thought I had you there. And always hi, Elise, the queen of memes. Happy early 4th of July. Go Lions. Good time to be a Lions fan for sure. Doesn't matter what team you're a fan of, though. We want to hear from you, hear what you think of this list. We want to hear your nominations for this list as we rank the top 11 linebackers in the NFC. Going to be some surprises on this list for sure. But before we do that, we're going to do what we always do, and that is kick it off with a little Lions-related content. We are in the deadest part of the NFL schedule right now, folks. These are death days if you're looking for content like everyone who's with us today in the offseason. Not a lot on the Lions front this week. One thing that we did want to talk about was one Miss Mina Kimes, NFL journalist who has always kind of had the Lions back in the past, right, Russ? I mean, she's kind of always been our advocate, but she's come out this week and made a couple of disparaging statements about the Lions. I don't know if you'd call them disparaging, but she did say that if it weren't for Ben Johnson or the situation that the players were put in, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta would not be the same players that we're seeing. And I just think it's a bullshit take. Come on. Okay. You could say that about any players, right down to Patrick Mahomes. You could say if they didn't go to that situation and that coach, it wouldn't be the same. Well, of course it wouldn't, but they'd still be great players. Patrick Mahomes would still be a great player unless he went to the Bears. But Amon-Ra St. Brown, what more does the guy have to do? Sam Laporta, the most prolific rookie season a tight end has ever had, and you're telling me, oh, it's because of Ben Johnson? Get out of here with that. Russ, what do you think of Mina Kimes in these comments?
I think they love to use stats when it benefits them, and they won't let Lions use stats when they earn it. So I think it's complete BS. It's like they act like Jared Goff or this whole offense just like came together and it was just like loaded from day one. I mean, Quintez Cephas and Rashad Perryman were the starting wide receivers when Jared Goff got here. So get the F out of here with that thing. And he had 900 yards that first year, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a cornerstone to why the Detroit Lions are where they're at. I think it's a complete ridiculous statement. He would go to any team in the NFC North would kill to have an Amon-Ra St. Brown on their team to make their team better. Or Sam Laporta.
And I guess she made some other comments, too, regarding Jordan Love or something. I know you're more familiar with it, so I'll just let you field that one. What were her comments regarding the quarterback position?
I mean, and I don't even mind if you want to jump to conclusions and say that Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the NFC North off of an 8-game deal. And that's what she did. She said that Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the NFC North because of this, this awesome run he had, in the last 8 to 10 games sitting right there where they beat, banger after banger right there. And they beat team. They did get a good victory against Kansas City during that stretch. But you beat Carolina, you beat Minnesota, you beat Chicago. The
Giants beat them.
Yeah, and you got beat by the Giants, and you got the brakes beat off of you by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during that stretch, this legendary stretch that you have. So I don't mind you saying he looks like he's got some skills. I like watching the guy in play action and everything like that. But I mean, just to anoint this guy already, there's been plenty of one-hit wonders that have had nice tail ends of a season.
Put that graphic up. What did you say there? An 8-game man crush.
That's what
she
it
had. Because the final 8 games of the season, he really did come on. Hey, the kid's good, no doubt. Nobody's denying the kid's good. But when you look at the year that Jared Goff had, finishing top 5 in every major category, and you're just going to come out with a blanket statement that he's the best quarterback in the NFC North, come on.
By the way, Packer fan, that's the exact same story that you gave to us when Jared Goff won 8 of 10 in 2022. Oh, now the shoe's on the other foot. Oh, he is the greatest quarterback. And now Jared Goff actually backed it up with another full good season. My friend, I am going to give you the same medicine that you gave us last year. We need to wait and see on Jordan Love before you start crowning this kid.
Put it in the comments. Tell us what you think about Mina Kimes and her comments saying that basically that Amon-Ra and Laporta are just average guys that went to the right team. I mean, I'm not quoting her directly there, but that's what she's saying. And also that Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the NFC North. Controversial. I realize it's the offseason. She needs to get some clicks, right? So she's got to say something that's not vanilla to try to get some action going. But I think it's an interesting thing for us to talk about. Not a lot for us to talk about. Also, NFL loses a lawsuit on the Sunday ticket case, something that you and I didn't talk about in pre-production. So I'm kind of throwing you a curveball here, Russ. Sorry about that. But something that I think definitely needs to be talked about. This is going to impact us, right? If you were a Sunday ticket buyer, you're going to get part of a class action lawsuit. You're going to get a nice check in the mail eventually. But I think what's happening is so many people are rushing to judgment around the internet and on radio, talk radio today, talking that, this is going to be devastating for I just don't see it that way. First of all, they're going to appeal. They have the best lawyers in the world. They're going to appeal. They're going to drag this out as long as they can. It's not like the NFL owners lost this case. Now they got to cut a check tomorrow. That's not going to happen. Okay, it's going to take a long time. In between now and then, when it does finally happen and they have to cut a check, they are going to come up with so many ways to pay for this. Guess who's going to pay for it? We're going to pay for it. They're going to say, okay, well, we'll raise concessions this much, parking this much, and jerseys this much, and we'll charge the TV stations this much. And by the time it's all paid for, this whole class action lawsuit is not going to come out of those fat cats' pocket. Promise you. That's how business works, folks. But it is a substantial amount of money. They say each team may end up paying as much as $100 million. Sure, they'll find a way to cover those costs. But as a part of this, too, this is going to be and this is just my prediction and my speculation. I didn't hear this anywhere. This is just what I came up out of my little pea brain today. And that is, this is going to be the excuse to call a new collective bargaining agreement. The new collective bargaining agreement doesn't come again until 2030. But Roger Goodell has already planted the seed 2 years ago that he wants an 18-game schedule. We're already seeing all kinds of reports floating out how they not only want to run to an 18-game schedule, they want to run the Super Bowl, push it back to President's Day weekend, so there'll be a national holiday right after the Super Bowl, which will be good for Super Bowl parties and Super Bowl merchandise and all of that. So they're already pushing to that, but they can't do any of that without the players' consent, the NFLPA's consent. We will get our good friend Mark Schmidt, NFLPA member, on this show, I promise you, before all of that shakes out, to see where this money's going to come from. If you want to go to 18 games, you're going to have to get that by the players, and you're going to have to pay. And they're going to lay down some rules and say, if you really want, because the players do not want this, but they're going to have to make it worth their while. And if they can get the players to buy into this, this is another way they're going to come up with paying for this lawsuit. What do you think of all of that, Russell?
It kind of reminds me of the stimulus checks. You know, you want to go out there and, you know, you want to, everybody gets hooked up a little bit for right now. And, you know, everybody's dancing in the streets for about 24 hours. And then the rent gets due on the back end, and then all of a sudden you go, why am I spending $3.25 on a loaf of bread? Well, because they gave a whole bunch of money away. Well, this is the exact same thing that's going to happen with the NFL ticket. They're going to win this lawsuit, and a whole bunch of money is going to get shelled out, and you're going to get your $38.28 check, and they're going to raise the prices on everything. You know, congratulations.
Well, Russ, I love that you said that, because that is what most class action lawsuits is when you have so many participants. But they said the numbers right now, if it were to be resolved right now with the numbers they have, each ticket member is looking at over $5,000 right now. But this is how they work. This is how class actions work, right? The lawyers hold all the money, and then they hold it for like 2 years, waiting for other people to claim their chunk of it. Right. So, I mean, this isn't going to be resolved anytime soon, but believe me when I say the owners are going to find a way to pay for it, not themselves.
That's right.
Let's take a look at the at the comments
We're
here
gonna bite a
regarding
kneecap off.
the Mina Kimes comments. And we got Corey in the comments who says, I'm over Jordan Love hype train. Davey wants to know if Mina was smoking the kind when she made these comments.
That's good.
J Mommy says, I really don't pay much attention to none of them. I know how the Lions are built, and we do too. And anybody with a brain knows. And like I said, this is that comment, such a good comment, J Mommy. We all know. I think people who know football, and that's who the people are that are on this show at this time of the year, who are so vested in football that we're here at July 1 talking about football. We know that these players are definitely above those comments. John Miller in here says Saint and Laporta are not average players. Being with the Lions and Ben Johnson certainly doesn't hurt, but neither does having a wonderful quarterback, an excellent offensive line, and being great players by themselves. Great take, John. Thank you for being in the comments. We want to know what you think as we are about to roll into our top 11 linebackers in the NFC, but we do have a couple topics there that you can kick around if you like. But without further ado, let's get this list started. And because it's only 11 and there are 16 teams in the NFL, that means some whole teams didn't make the list. And for that, we had to whack somebody. We had to call in a contract killer. A contract unaliver. Because you can get dinged on Facebook for saying the K word. So we brought in Pete from the movie Goodfellas. Pete the unaliver. Pete the unaliver coming in to whack some teams for us. And it was a little hard. There's going to be some surprises here.
Well, I mean, so we got to set the table, like, because I know a couple people might have been here for the first time to understand who Pete the unaliver is. So, like, if we're going to do a top 11 room, well, there's 16 teams in the NFC. Now, if there are no teams that have 2 linebackers, then that means that automatically 5 rooms got to get whacked right off the top. Now, both Michael and I have lists. So there are 32 chances, or there's 22 chances for them to make the list. But what we need to do is we need to get rid of all the trimmings right here. And there are some common names that are on this list, like this first person that's on the list right here, which happens to be the Arizona Cardinals. Pete comes in, he takes care of the room.
It's my quarterback. Took care of that thing for you.
And I appreciate you, Pete the unaliver. And that way we don't have to worry about any linebackers from the Arizona Cardinals. Are there any notables right here that you want to bring up before we move on to the next room already?
Not at all. Arizona's been whacked on so many categories on this.
I just saved the graphic.
These rankings that we've done, they've been whacked because they're a team that doesn't have a lot. They stripped it all down, brought in Jonathan Gannon, new coach. They got a couple of draft picks over there, but they have no notable linebackers on the team. And just for clarification, we are not grading rooms, right, Russ? We're grading actual player, single linebacker,
linebacker, singular dude.
It could be an inside linebacker, a middle linebacker, or a weak side linebacker.
Well, in the middle linebackers, we're not going to go to the outside ones. We are not doing pass rushing linebackers, which excludes guys like Micah Parsons. So if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, don't come at us because we're not counting him as a linebacker. Come back on the pass rushing episode.
Yeah, he is actually listed as a defensive end anyway.
Okay, cool.
And I looked at a bunch of those that are listed as defensive ends. Like the guys they brought into Minnesota now are basically defensive ends. Jonathan Greenard, even though he plays like a linebacker a lot of times, but
so this is off-ball linebackers.
Off-ball linebackers, exactly what we're doing. So Arizona Cardinals, the first team to be wiggity whacked off the list.
Took care of that thing for you.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you for getting those Cardinals out of here. Lions, of course, going to play the Cardinals in the first 3 weeks of the season. I think it's game 3, right?
Right.
We get the first 2 old playoff teams, Rams and Bucks, for the first 2 games. Then we go out to Arizona to play this team. I like that we're getting them early before they can get a chance and their young players get a chance to gel. You're talking about a Cardinals team that beat the Cowboys last year. I think they beat the Niners too. They beat Philadelphia.
That's a rivalry game. Man.
They beat somebody good. They beat Philadelphia too.
That's fine.
Okay,
I mean,
so I'm just saying this team can be dangerous. And I'm glad we're getting them at the beginning of the team, but they don't have a linebacker in the top 11, so they get whacked. What's next?
Well, I was going to say, since we were talking about, how Micah Parsons isn't going to make the list, that just gave us a good opportunity to go ahead and have Pete go ahead and take care of this Dallas Cowboys room.
It's my quarterback.
Yeah, this one was tough for me. This one was tough for me because they do have Eric Kendricks, who's a true linebacker, and he's a good one. Okay, he's really good. But Damone Clark, Maris Liufau is also the linebackers core there. None of those guys met the threshold of the best 11 in the NFC for me, even though Kendricks was a fringe player for me. They rely on that defensive line and Micah Parsons and those guys to create havocs. And a lot of these linebackers for Dallas Cowboys, they don't eat as much. So their stats aren't there, but they're a solid group. But we're not ranking groups, we're ranking individuals, and Eric Kendricks just fell short of the top 11 for me. So the most hated team in the land and the most loved team in the land, the Dallas Cowboys, are whacked.
Oh my gosh. And I don't mind that either. And here's another thing too, guys. Like, if you don't make the top 11 linebackers, a lot of teams have two really good linebackers. So it's like, it doesn't mean that you're not good at football. I mean, really, the top 40 linebackers are probably really good in football, but we're just talking about these guys are really the high-end guys. And I like to give a lot of credit to guys that did well last year, maybe a little more than Mike does. And we have a good balance of guys when it's all said and done here. So no more Cowboys. And one that was kind of tough for me right here was this next one for me, which had some really good guys, but right here, the Seattle Seahawks, we had to have Pete the Unaliver come in and take care. With some of my favorite line, with Wagner being gone, and he was their best guy. I mean, you're really going to be counting on some unproven guys. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good.
They lost a good one in Jordan Brooks as well, a very good linebacker, went to the Miami Dolphins. He would have made this list, but now he's in the AFC. Bobby Wagner would have made this list for Seattle, but he was left to the Commanders now. Still in the NFC for Bobby Wagner, a first ballot Hall of Famer. They do have a really good guy in Uchenna Nueso, who's a very good linebacker. He's in that same category as Eric Kendricks in Dallas, where he's good. He's just barely on the fringe to make this list, but I couldn't justify trading him for any of the guys that are on my list, but he's definitely good. They also have Boye Mafe, who was coming into his second year, a high draft pick for them, playing linebacker out of the University of Minnesota, showed a lot of promise as a rookie. Boye Mafe is a player we might see on this list next year. But right now, Seattle Seahawks do not have a top linebacker in the top 11 in the NFC, so they get unalived.
Take care of that thing for you.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you, Pete. You have to do it. And now one of the hardest cuts that I think I've ever had since we've been doing this. We haven't been doing it that long, but I mean, these
Carolina Panthers are a hard cut for you. They weren't hard. They weren't hard for me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, where were they at? I thought I already put the Panthers on there.
No, man. They do have Shaq Thompson and DJ Wanhams, who really good. Those guys could start on any team in the league. Okay, they're good linebackers. Josie Jewell. I don't know. It sounds like a British pop star to me. But I don't think that Josie Jewell, DJ Wanham, and Shaq Thompson, any of those three are good enough to crack the 11. So Carolina, they've been whacked for quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end, and now they are also whacked on the other side of the ball. What used to be the strength of this Carolina team, they've lost Brian Burns, they've lost all kinds of pieces left and right, and they're just not backfilling those positions with top-tier talent, in my opinion, and they're in trouble down there in the NFC South, and they are whacked off the villain squad list.
Take care of that thing for you.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot I didn't have I accidentally deleted their graphic, and they've been on every single one.
So Carolina, you are so pitiful that Russell Wayne did not even give a crap about your slide. So you don't get one.
When I'm short on time, it's your slide. Forget your slide.
And Russ, I'll let you introduce the next one. The last team on our villain squad list that gets whacked for the linebacker room, not having a single linebacker that would crack the top 11 on our list. who's the last team?
Well, I mean, we're realistic fans, Mike, and we're trying to do this in the right way. And there was no realistic, homeristic way that I could put one of our very own linebackers in the top 11. Yeah. Sorry.
Took care of that thing for you.
That one hurts. That one's hurt. That's where I'm glad that we have Pete. And, you know, if Sarah's watching or some of these Bear fans and thinking that we're just going to throw all of our guys on all these lists just because we're a bunch of homers, that is not the intention here. And I am sorry to hurt Lions fans. And I cannot condone putting, I mean, it would be Alex Anzalone if it was somebody that was going in there. I cannot put somebody in the top 11 that isn't even the best linebacker on his own team. So I just can't do it. I'm sorry. And for that reason, I'm sorry, guys. I got to put it up there twice because it really hurts me.
Took care of that thing for you.
Which is the reason I'm glad that we have a guy like Pete.
And this is the first time the Lions have been whacked on our rankings, and it's rightly so because it's on the defense where the Lions rank 27th in the whole league. So it makes sense that all the Lions players make our list on the offensive ball. They're an offensive juggernaut, this team. So linebacker room.
Lost all our viewers. That's right. Yeah, we're done. Yeah.
Boye Mafi might be on this list next year for Seattle. Shaq Campbell will probably be on this list next year for the Lions. Wow, we did lose all our fucking viewers.
We did. Yeah. Hey, you know what? Hey, if we lose people from watching the show that are Lion fans that don't want to hear truth, we don't have a top 11 linebacker in the NFC, guys. I'm sorry. But we just don't.
Honestly, if we were ranking rooms, I think the Lions might make the 11 list.
Maybe.
If we were ranking the room, but we're not. We're individual players. We don't have one linebacker as good as the others that are on this list.
Let's go. Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, you go in and grab them comments if there's anybody in there. If we we've covered all the comments. Put it in the comments. Let us know what you think about this list. Or maybe the Lions, you got no thoughts on that? We whacked the whole linebacker room. Do you agree or don't agree? Yep.
And so let's move right on into these lists then.
Yeah.
So that's the teams that get whacked. Arizona, Seattle, Carolina, Dallas, and Detroit. So let's move to number 11. Number 11 on the list, and I can see you got a Minnesota Viking in the background, so that's a good way for me to segue right into this. Number 11 for me is Ivan Pace Jr., Minnesota Vikings, undrafted free agent. What a story. Played over 700 snaps. Look at those grades, pass rush and defense. And that's something that I think we need to preface this with. When you're talking about grading linebackers, folks, you have to grade them on two fronts. Run and pass, because it's such a versatile position that plays both sides. They have a foot in each side of the run game and the passing game. So you might have a linebacker that's really good against the run, but not against the pass. That hurt him and made him not go on this list, like Nwosu from Seattle. Great against the run, but he suffered against the pass last year, and that kept him out of the top 11. Whereas Ivan Pace, you can see anything over 69 is good. And he's there in the mid-70s in both on that PFF grade. So Ivan Pace comes in number 11 on Main Event Mike's list.
And Ivan Pace also comes into number 11 on Russell Wayne's list right here. And that's I really like Ivan Pace Jr. The only thing that really kept him out of being even higher on my list was the fact that he only had 701 snaps. Like all of the other linebackers were over 1,000, most of them that were on the top of this list, because that's what they do. You put your best linebackers out there, you want them out there most of the time. But he's just a little mini dude that does everything. Look at those defensive PFF, for the pass rush, for coverage. He's just a kind of a do-it-all guy. Mm-hmm. And you can count on him to do stuff out in coverage, so you can have him out there on all three downs. I think he will be for this year. So I expect him and maybe have him jumping up this list a couple notches by the end of next year, unless he has a sophomore
And
slump.
It should be noted that those 700 snaps wasn't because he's not a good player or he has a deficiency against the run of the pass. It's more about Brian Flores and the defensive coordinator, the way he rotates and the way he's constantly bringing in fresh legs to blitz and things like that. So don't buy too much into the snap count on this particular player. But there are some players that didn't make the list based on the snap count because they do have a deficiency in either the run or the pass. So, but for this player, it is not. Ivan Pace comes in for both of us at number 11. Let me know if you like that pick. Matt Henry says, good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, Matt. Thanks for joining us. It's time now, Russ. We're going to do a snake style. So now it's your turn. Who do you got at 10?
Oh, gosh. I have, and this is one of the one that might surprise you. I tell you that there's one that surprises you because when you look at the stats, you have one guy that you're like, who? That comes in, and this is that guy. Number 10 on my list is Caden Ellis, linebacker from Atlanta. As you can see right there, 1,082 snaps, 93 tackles, 4 sacks, and all the way around. I'm going to bring it back up again so you can really see those PFF. 75.4, 79.0, 73.3, 79.3. Another very well-rounded guy, and honestly I made him 10 just because some of the other guys were a little more well-known, but if I just wanted to go stats wise, I mean, he would have been higher up on this list because he had such good rankings in that way, and he's staying. He's going to be in the same situation another year. I don't know if they're changing coordinators over there. Even if they are, they still know each other in that. And there was another linebacker that they had over there that was really good too, and kept them. I could only pick one. You can only have one.
And I love this
picking Caden Ellis.
I love this pick, Russ. You look at those stats. I mean, you can't deny 93 tackles. I mean, I like my linebacker to be a 100 tackle guy, like TJ Edwards in Chicago every year, 100 tackle guy, but over 1,000 snaps. I'm glad that you made this pick. I picked a couple of guys on my list that have definitely subpar numbers compared to Caden Ellis. Okay. Their numbers are not even close as good. You love to go off PFF and the stats and look at what the numbers bear out the truth, right? That's what we always say. The numbers bear out the truth. And I love that you pick them that way. I pick more with the heart. I pick more with what have you done in the past also, and what's your upside and those intangible things that you can't see in the numbers. So I love that we don't always match up. I don't even have Caden Ellis in my list, but I'm really glad you did.
Oh, that's all right.
Because you look at those numbers, he definitely deserves it. So number 10 for Russell Wayne is Caden Ellis from the Atlanta Falcons. For me, it's a guy that it hurts not to put the Lions on the list and then put a Green Bay Packer on the list, but you cannot deny Quay Walker. 100 tackles a year.
I had you wrong, but whatever.
Oh, you got him. You got me having him at 9?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I have him at 10. Quay Walker at 10. 973 snaps. Put it back up there. And 90 tackles. And only 2 times did he cry in the tunnel last year. So he's improving that number as well. I don't like him. I thought he showed what he's like when he pushed the trainer in Lambeau Field to push the Lions trainer. I thought it was a really low class. He's a crybaby. We've seen him cry but you can't deny his skill, and he's fast, and he's always around the ball, and he's definitely one of the top 11 linebackers in the NFC, as much as it might pain me to say. I wouldn't let him be on my team based on character for what I know about him, which is diddly squat. But Quay Walker comes in at number 10 for me.
Okay. Well, since you're doing a snake draft, your next guy's probably going to come up on the next one anyway, right there. So there you go. Number 10 on the list. Who's your number 9?
My number 9 on the list is one of those that I alluded to where his numbers were not as good as Caden Ellis, is not as good as every other linebacker on this list. And that is Devin White going to the Philadelphia Eagles now. Look at those. Those aren't great grades, especially that pass rush grade, right? 63.5.
That was his best one.
And that was his numbers aren't that great, but if you'll remember back to 2022, he was a monster. 2021, he was even better. But the system there, they also have a guy named Levante David in Tampa that was eating up a lot of the stats because he's just an absolute beast, and you will see him on this list. But Devin White now goes to the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's why he's on my list, because of that upside and the team that he's going to. And that's how we're judging this. This is how we're putting this list together, folks, is this situation, this year, going into this year, not what they've done in the past. But for Devin White going to the Philadelphia Eagles now, they lost Nick Moreau to the Buffalo Bills. They've got one of the best defensive lines in the game. They now have one of the best secondaries. They already did have one of the best secondaries in the game, and now they drafted Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, two young guys to go along with Darius Slay and James Bradbury. They're stacked on defense. Devin White's going to the perfect situation. All he has to do is not screw it up. And I think that makes him good enough to be number 9 on Main Event Mike's list of top linebackers in the NFC.
Oh, Mike, I love that call right there. And that's the thing is I love the way that we can pick these things. It's like, to me, it's not 100% on stats. That to me is a far thing from, but you can look at his combine things, his sub 4.40. The guy's athletic out of his mind, and he's going to be put into the best defensive situation that he's ever been in. I don't mind that pick at all. And I like that. My number 9 guy is what your number 9 guy was, or number 10 guy was, and that's Quay Walker. Now, Quay Walker is a guy, this is a proof right here. He doesn't have the greatest stats in the world. And if I went on stats alone, he would have not made this list. But there's just something about my guts that says that he is a very good, solid linebacker, that they can always count on him. They always count on him in big situations. Quay Walker, I mean, I'll always remember him crying in the tunnel after we beat their candy asses, but that's all right. He is a very good linebacker, and that's why he's at number 9 on my list of top 11 linebackers in the NFC.
You are watching the Main Event Football Show on the Villain Squad Network. Be sure to follow our page on Facebook, Lions Villain Squad. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is at Villain Squad. Our poor little YouTube channel needs some help, so head on over there and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would, please. Let's see what we have in the comments here. Jason Fuller says, Lions linebackers, Ben Neiman, a new guy who came over from the Chiefs, and maybe Deron Gilbert. Are these guys any good or future prospects not list related? I think they're very good. I think they're very good depth pieces at linebacker. Ben Neiman is going to play special teams. He's going to make the 53-man roster. He comes with a championship pedigree, and he's a great special teams player. And this is a Dan Campbell and Aaron Glenn kind of guy. He always known as one of the hardest workers, and he was a leader on that Chiefs in the locker room. Not out at the press podium. He wasn't a leader. He wasn't having microphones shoved in his mouth, but all the players in the locker room have all reported that they looked up to this guy. So I think Ben Neiman was a great addition for the Detroit Lions. And Deron Gilbert, he may not make this team, right? He might be a practice squad guy. That will be interesting to see. But yeah, I love the comment, Jason, and I do think that these guys are going to make a contribution in one way or another. Moving on, we are at number 8 in our NFC linebacker rankings. And for me, it's Okereke at number 8 for the New York Giants. And this is a great example of how you grade a linebacker on run and on pass. Look at these scores. In coverage, he's 82.5, one of the best coverage scores for a linebacker in PFF. And a run defense well over the average, 74.4. And look at the number of snaps, 1,100 snaps. For this guy, he's out there for every play, and they know what they got in him. And their defensive line just got better with Brian Burns. They've got Kayvon Thibodeau and who is it? DeMarcus Lawrence, or they have I can never remember his first name, but it's Lawrence. He's a great defensive tackle. So it's going to open up things even more for Okereke now having Brian Burns there. So they've got a weak secondary, so you better have a good coverage linebacker, and Bobby Okereke is just that. And that's why he comes in number 8 on Main Event Mike's list.
Awesome. Well, this is where you and I actually are, we did our little snake thing back and forth, and that's who I actually have at number 8 too, is Okereke. And you just can't deny what he did. And as long as you're not asking this guy to rush the quarterback, then he's perfect linebacker, perfect off-ball linebacker. He's great in coverage. He had one of the top coverage grades in the NFL. He's real good against the run. You know, his overall defense is really, really good. His tackling, I mean, he does not miss tackles. And that's what you really want when your defensive line is, you know, pushing in. You got guys sneaking out. You need guys that can clean it up. And that's exactly what Bobby O can pull. And that's why I have him at my number 8 linebacker in the NFC.
Linebackers are happy to get 1 interception a year. It's very rare for them to get 2. This guy had 3 last year. That's got to tell you right there that he is a great coverage linebacker just to get 3 interceptions in this league at the linebacker position. So number 8, Bobby Okereke on both of our lists, the Villain Squad ranking of the top linebackers in the NFC. We move now to 7. That's the beat at the club, and his name is Ernest. It's not Ernest, is it? It's Ernest. Ernest Jones. Who? Ernest goes to LA. You mean like really, 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 really goes to LA? Can you pull his numbers back up for me? Ernest Jones, Los Angeles Rams. He had the benefit of having Aaron Donald, okay, for his entire career. He played over 1,000 snaps last year and made over 100 tackles. So when you are trying to avoid Aaron Donald, it's going to open up opportunities for the opposing linebacker, and he capitalized on them. My prediction is Ernest Jones does not make this list next year. And I have him right now, though, at number 7.
And I love this is the 2 spots right here where you and I are going to have the same person. Ernest Jones right here, another person that you cannot unsee his numbers. And honestly, you know, I think that he very well could be here next year, especially if he knows the defense, and he's able to, you know, have a full off season, continuing to get better. I wouldn't see why he couldn't duplicate those types of numbers again. 1,000 snaps, maybe not the 3 interceptions. You know, that sometimes maybe that's better to be lucky than good and being in the right place at the right time. But no, Ernest Jones is a nice quality piece right in the middle of that defense, and they're getting a deal on him. So
and you got him at number 7 as well.
Number 7.
Great.
In the NFC.
We'd like to hear from you, just like our good friend Smoking Jeremy B says, good evening, gents. Good evening, Jeremy. You can catch Jeremy on the Huddle, the sports Huddle Sports Network on Roku. TV. So moving on to number 6, for me, it's a future Hall of Famer, a first ballot for future Hall of Famer. And the guy who's single most responsible for the Seattle Seahawks not being on this list. And that is one, Bobby Wagner. After spending a year in LA and then going back to the Seahawks, he now goes to finish out his career in a dumpster fire in Washington. However,
bite a kneecap off.
However, can you put his stats back up for me? Bobby Wagner still has a lot of juice in the tank. Look at that. 3 interceptions by a linebacker, 130 tackles at 33 years old. 130 tackles, folks. And look at these PFF rankings. Russ, why don't you take it from here? What do you think of my number 6 pick?
I mean, look at that. 82.4, and then you're over 90. That when you're over 90 on PFF, I mean, I know PFF isn't the end all be all, but I mean, pretty much every player that has those over 90 rankings are elite players. Though that is, I mean, I don't care age. This man aged like wine. So I like that. I don't want to talk too much about him next because he may be on my list later.
I really wish Bobby Wagner would have came to the Lions. What a great piece that would have been last year, right?
But I love that. I love Bobby Wagner. It makes any linebacker room better. As my number 6 linebacker, I have one of the San Francisco linebackers, and Drake Greenlaw, and he's got a lot of 9s in his stats. 999 snaps, 99 tackles. That's right. He's all about the 99. He's a big 99 fan.
Right on.
And
Drake Greenlaw.
I mean, and look at him. I mean, when you're talking about he isn't even the best linebacker on his own team, that's pretty significant right there. Right there. Dre Greenlaw as number 6 on my list.
So I have Bobby Wagner. You have Dre Greenlaw. You can see this is already starting to get pretty good, right? I mean, You're moving into some really good players. If you have Bobby
Right.
Wagner at 6 and Dre Greenlaw at
Yep.
6, then must be some real studs up above on this list. So.
Well, when we're doing a snake draft, since it's my turn right here to go, I might as well go ahead and talk about Bobby Wagner right there as my number 5 linebacker, 1,170 snaps. And you're talking about a guy that does it all right there. 4 sacks, 3 interceptions. I mean, you can have him out there on 3 downs. That is so important. You're going to notice this trend for the rest of the linebackers that are on this list. These are guys that you don't have to take off on pass rushing downs. You can have them out there at all times. These guys that are over 1,000 snaps, that's a defensive coordinator that's trusting that player on a whole bunch of different situations. So Bobby Wagner, yeah, he's first ballot Hall of Famer, number 5 on this list of NFC linebackers for me.
I love it. Moving on to my number 5 pick now is, are you out there, Bear Down Mike? Are you out there? If for me, it's TJ Edwards of the Chicago Bears. And I'll tell you what, look at that, 112 tackles, another year with 100 tackles, 3 interceptions. That's over 1,000 snaps. This guy is a do-it-all, one of the best linebackers in the league year over year. And if we were grading rooms, when you throw in Jack Sanborn, when you throw in Tremaine Edmonds, in my opinion, in the NFC, they have the second best room in the entire NFC right behind the San Francisco 49ers at linebacker. And TJ Edwards, I knew right when they brought him in. Now, is he overpaid? Yeah, he's overpaid for sure. The whole linebacker room's overpaid with just those 2 players, Edmonds and Edwards. Tremaine Edmonds did not make this list for main event, Mike. I don't care what you Bear fans say. The numbers bear it out that he was not even in a top 20 last year. Isn't that right, Russ?
Yeah. Well, if I'm going to take this over right at this spot, and I know that I'm going to jump you on this, but my number 4 linebacker is TJ Edwards. And at 1,042 snaps, he is a stud. And I disagree with you that he is, for one, he's half the money that Tremaine Edmonds was, and he's twice the linebacker. Tremaine Edmonds sucks. That is a bust of a pick for the Bears right there. He was awful last year. If I'm looking at Tremaine Edmonds, oh my God, his PFF is 56.6, 57.5 versus the run, 42.5 as in the pass rush, 58.3 in coverage. He sucks. I mean, you want to talk about a $15 million turd right there. They should want to get rid of Tremaine Edmonds, but right here, you want to talk about a guy that's worth every penny, half the money, twice the linebacker, TJ Edwards, my number 4 linebacker in the NFC.
He is an absolute beast, and that's all they do in Chicago is produce great linebackers, right? Always great linebacker play coming out of the Bears, and TJ Edwards keeps that tradition going. If this team is Caleb Williams is a real deal and they turn it around, TJ Edwards is going to be a big piece of that defense, and he might go down in Bear lore as one of those great Bear linebackers from the way he plays. Year over year, it's 100 tackles. You can't ask for more from a linebacker than what he provides. Who we got in the comments here? Gary says, you sound like a hater. I don't watch football. Travis Kelce just said one of the best tight ends in the game, Sam Laporta is. He did. After Tight End University wrapped up, they asked Travis Kelce, who stood out to you? And the first name out of his mouth was Sam Laporta. He said, this guy's a effing dude. This guy's a dude. All right. And you're talking about Taylor Swift's boyfriend. So that means a lot. Yeah. Jason MC says Skull stands for still keeps on losing. Roy Bradow. Glad to have you here, Jason. Roy back in the comments. What's up, fellas? Scott Harrison. Welcome to the show.
You like that?
And Jason, you will be glad to know that before you joined us, Ivan Pace Jr. did make this list. He came in at number 11 for both Russ and I. So we do appreciate what your undrafted free agent linebacker has been able to do. Quezzy didn't draft this guy. I would have loved it if he'd have been a 7th round pick. We could at least point to a draft pick that Quezzy did that was a stroke of genius, but we just can't. Instead, we can look at Lewis Seen and all these other guys instead. But Ivan Pace, Jordan Hicks as well.
Yeah.
Another one of those situations where if we were to rank the entire room, the Vikings would probably rank higher, but we are not. And Ivan Pace did make the list. So glad to have you on, Jason. Right now, though, we are sitting at number 4, and Russ just gave us his number 4 linebacker on the top 11 list because ours go to 11, and it takes more than a random old top 10 list. It's top 11, damn it. And Russ had, so it's time now for my number 4 pick, and it's a guy that you had at number 6, and it's with the San Francisco 49ers. His name is Dre Greenlaw. 99 tackles last year, 2 interceptions, great grades in overall and in coverage. He might struggle a little against the run, they say, but you do have Fred Warner over there, who's an absolute tackling machine. So, he definitely outperformed a guy like Tremaine Edmonds when you're that second option at the linebacker position. So Dre Greenlaw got injured temporarily, had a big interception in the NFC title game against Jordan Love, that last pass of the year. I love it when Packer quarterback's last pass ends in an interception, like Aaron Rodgers did. And Dre Greenlaw responsible for that. And that's only one of the reasons he comes in at number 4. I mean, this Niners team is stacked. And Dre Greenlaw, I mean, he's probably top 10 in the entire NFL. And that tells you how stacked this NFC is for linebacker play. Dre Greenlaw, Main Event Mike's number 4 on the list.
Number 4 on the list. And number 3, 2, 1, honestly, I'll give it away now.
Give it away now.
All I'm going to give away is that you and I are in lockstep on all 3 of the last ones. So you can go ahead and give me the number. You can set them all up, but we're just going to talk about these guys because your number 3 is my number 3 and number 2 and number 1. We were lockstep right here with these.
Number 3 for the villain squad this week on our top 11 linebackers is from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and his name is Lavonte David. 1,200 snaps. 4 interceptions, okay, as a linebacker. This guy's an absolute beast. Look at these scores. 90s in run and coverage. I mean, this guy is the real deal, man. And he comes in at number 3 on both of our lists. This guy could play on my team any day. And we know what I love most about it? When the offseason came, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not hesitate. They signed him right. They were the first free agent, internal guy that they signed. Even though Mike Evans was needing a contract, they took care of business with Lavonte David because they know what they have in this guy. And they signed him to a nice big fat contract that would warrant being in the top 11 linebackers in the NFC. So that's who it is for number 3, Lavonte David.
Yes. And Lavonte David, for me, you want to talk about the epitome of what a linebacker should be, what every single team on planet Earth is looking for when they're looking for a linebacker is a complete machine. And just the fact that they let Devin White, the younger linebacker, go and they re-signed Lavonte David should tell you everything that you need to know right there. Is this a cornerstone piece? And then here it is. He's in the top 3, not just this year, but the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. This guy has just been a steady Eddie, steady Lavonte all the way through his career right there. That's why I got him at number 3 as well.
Mm-hmm. And Jeremy B in the comments says a year and a half later, and Aaron Rodgers' last completed pass is still to Kirby Joseph. Right. And then last year, of course, we know Aaron Rodgers for the Jets goes down after just a couple of plays with a torn Achilles. He went to the sidelines. He threw his helmet. Kirby Joseph caught it. Anyway, Jeremy also says something about linebackers named Devin not living up to their hype. Devin Lloyd for the Jacksonville Jaguars is starting to, though. He almost, he's an AFC team, so he wasn't eligible for this list. But he had a really rough rookie season. It's a guy that Russ and I were looking for the Lions maybe to draft instead of Jack Campbell the next year. But Devin Lloyd is a Devin who might break that linebacker Devin curse. He's really key. He had a great year last year, and they're expecting big things from him this year. So moving on. That was number 3 on our villain squad list of top linebackers. Time now for number 2. And this guy, a 12-year veteran, just continues to do it. I think this guy might even get a Hall of Fame nod, maybe not a first ballot, but his career is definitely barreling towards those kind of numbers. And that is with the New Orleans Saints. His name is Demario Davis. If you don't know who he is, If you're only watching your own team and you're out watching other things around the
Look
league,
at those.
look at those numbers. Solid all the way across the board in the top tier of all linebacker scores across the whole league. He's definitely top 5 in the whole league. Demario Davis comes in at number 2 for main event Mike and for Russell Wilson. What do you got to say about him?
Well, I mean, just what you said right there. It's like his numbers, when you look at them, look a lot like Levante David's numbers, only a little bit better. So it's like, yeah, you're talking about 2 perfect type of linebackers that, you 85 in coverage, 82 versus the run, 89 overall. I mean, whatever you point him at the guy, he goes and tackles him. I mean, that is the type of linebackers you want. If you could have a linebacker room full of Levante Davis and Demario and Levante David and Demario Davises, then you're doing well. So that's why he's my number 2 as well.
Definitely. Jason says definitely a scary beast. So that's number 2 for the Villain Squad. Linebackers top 11. Time now for the number 1, and you probably already guessed it, right? Can we look at the numbers so we can have and it is Fred Warner.
Yeah, there it
1,200 snaps, 4 interceptions, 90s across the board on his overall and his run defense. Where's the C on his jersey? The leader of the, arguably the best defense in the league. And he's also probably going to be wearing a gold jacket someday if his career continues on the trajectory that it is. We're going to be talking about him as a first ballot. Fred Warner comes in at number 1 for main event Mike and for Russell Wayne. Let's recap Russell Wayne's picks. He has Fred Warner, Demario Davis, Levante David, TJ Edwards, Bobby Wagner, Dre Greenlaw, and Ernest Jones, Bobby Okereke, and Quay Walker, Ivan Pace Jr., and a great pick, a guy who should have made my list instead of Devin White in hindsight, is Caden Ellis from the Atlanta Falcons. Yes, Jeremy, I had Devin White on my top 11 list. I deserve.
I'm sorry I messed yours up, but whatever.
All right. And I like him better at 10 anyway. So I had Fred Davis, Warner Davis, David, Greenlaw, Edwards, Bobby Wagner, and you know the rest. There you go. And Jeremy says his top 3 is the same as yours. Coincidence? Not really. They are the top 3, whether it's PFF, opinion, or stats based. Well,
I mean, yes. I mean, there are a lot of times, Jeremy, that the stats match up with, the fact that the guy is good. Because a lot of the really good players have good stats too. So it's like it works out like that sometimes. Those guys are ridiculous, but you can just watch them play. I mean, don't try to run anywhere near Warner or throw. I mean, you can count on him to play in the middle of that field. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous. Thank you for helping us get over 50,000.
Don't forget, folks, we continue this position ranking top 11 list next week. Next week, we're going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. We're going to go with cornerbacks, but we're going to do it a little different because there are so many corners. You have slot corners and outside corners, right? And press corners, zone coverage and press man. He's a better this or he's a better that. So it's just so wide open that we had to kind of narrow down the parameters a little bit. We're going to do cornerback duos for next week, right? So not doing whole rooms, not doing individual, but like you have to have at least 2 guys to make the top 11 next week for corners when the Villain Squad continues our list position rankings that go to 11. What else we got in the comments? Anything new in the comments here before we sign off? Jeremy says he used the eye test and the stats for his list. We said that at the beginning, Jeremy, before you got here about how we kind of did it, that I went more from the heart based on what they did, and Russ went more stat based. Jason MC says should be a good show about corners. Minnesota has none. Right.
So his prediction is that Minnesota gets wiggity whacked.
Jason does say Ivan Pace has a top IQ, super smart guy for sure. Super smart, except he signed with Minnesota. Roy says, no way, Quay, baby. Can't deny it. Quay Walker, a damn good player. Maybe not a damn good person. Maybe not a guy that would fit a Dan Campbell kind of thing, but certainly good enough to make the top 11 in my list. And both of us actually made that. He made the list. So after the Packers got shut out with no wide receivers on our list, we haven't had a Packer fan back in here since then. So I was hoping that they would show up to see that we put a linebacker on there for them. So it's been fun. I appreciate everyone being here with us today. We will be back again next Monday at 7 p.m. Be sure to like, follow, share our content if you like football. Don't let it get away from you. Follow us. It helps us out a little bit too. For all of us here at the Villain Squad, including the Maestro Russell Wayne, I'm Main Event Mike, saying God bless each and every one of you and peace out.